out of here. Like, care about that shit. Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I wanted to answer the last question, but whatever. Now, when it comes to this specific question, I do believe people do use it as a scapegoat, but also people do have to understand, listening to Asia and Love and Mr. White speak, I actually do believe that sometimes people can't accept I'm reacting based off of what you did. It has nothing to do with my trauma. If I'm being explosive, you pissed me off. Not what happened to me at the age of 11. And I feel like a lot of people can't accept that. A lot of people can't accept, hey, you're the one that pissed me off, so this is why I'm acting like this. This has nothing to do with trauma. But you just made me mad, so now I'm acting this way because you made me mad. And I feel like a lot of people base people's reaction off of things that they've been through when it could be what's going on in this moment right now.
But you don't think the explosive reaction or the above and beyond reaction isn't a part of what you've learned growing up, or some trauma you're holding on to? Because as adults, we learn how to respond to things differently.
No, it could be what you're doing to me right now.
What I'm saying. But with that being said, in that moment, we have to learn how to respond differently. We can't just go resort to the explosion. Like, that's the part of us growing. So if you're content with responding with an explosive way, then that says more about you than it does me.
But it goes back to age.
It doesn't mean that it has to be from trauma. It doesn't mean it has to be from past trauma. It could be what's been happening either between me and you. Maybe this was your third strike. Maybe, like we talked about yesterday on the women's show, maybe I kind of was sincere to you and kind to you, speaking, directly, but not aggressively. But that third time, you caught the wrong timing.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to always be. And I feel like a lot of people don't accept that. I'm angry right now because of what you did to me, not because I want what I went through in 93. Yeah. I'm angry right now and acting like this because of you.
But how does that?
Go ahead.
No. I wanted to get
well, what I was gonna say is when it happens more often than not, like when that's your first response is what I was referencing. When that's your first response, instead of just trying to talk and use your words, that's indicative of some type of trauma or hurt or something that needs to be addressed and resolved. If that's your immediate response all the time, that's the problem.
But what if it's not the first time that you made me feel some type of way, but the first time I've reacted to you? It don't got to do with nobody else.
I'm talking about if your immediate response is always explosive anger. I'm talking about when I said what I said. I'm talking about that's your immediate response. That's just who I am. I react. I'm a hothead. Like, people say that I'm just a hothead. That's you identify as explosive anger as who you are, and that's the problem.
But what I'm saying is it's not always that. You can feel like it's immediate response, but you did something to me 3 other times before and I did not touch upon it. So now you think I'm reacting wildly because this is the first time that I'm fully reacting because I gave you a chance by either not saying nothing or not bringing it up. Or
why are you hanging around somebody that keep disrespecting you to get the 3 times?
And how is that fair if you didn't say nothing to him?
What in the adult?
But we're going. I hear what Mary's saying.
Let me get Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
So I hear what Mary's saying. Sometimes some shit is just not trauma related. Sometimes you caught me on the wrong day. And on a normal occasion, maybe my natural response is to be like, I'm not going to say anything. So that could have been something that they were taught, to Chief's point, right? Maybe you were taught, don't just say anything. But one day, you know what? I'm fed up and this is how I'm going to react. Which goes to, I think Adrian said something about the frequency, right? The frequency of it. Are you having an outburst at every single moment in time? No, that's not what Mary was saying. Mary was saying in this moment today was not the day. Right? I think for the question itself, I do think trauma is a scapegoat, but I think it's society's fault. When you look at court cases, when you look at criminal things, they always want to go back and they look at, oh, well, they experienced this, or oh, well, they experienced that. When you look at children and people who are abusive, they say like, oh, well, their dad wasn't around, or oh, they saw their mom and dad do this, they saw their mom and do that. I feel like there's always a need and a want for society to understand why someone is doing the things that they're doing. But where does the accountability come into play when you're doing fuck shit?
Okay, so Alex, just for clarity's purposes, if I do X repeatedly, and each time I've done it, you haven't said anything, and then the one time, the fifth, seventh, third time I've done it, now you spaz. How is that fair to me? How is that okay?
So to
How
your
is that
point,
okay if you've never communicated with me and I don't
so
know
you
that that's
spoke
bothering
about
you?
so you spoke about how we learn things as a child, right? Maybe as a child, I was bullied, or maybe as a child, I was chose not to respond, right? I was taught that's what I saw. Don't respond, just let people do what they do, be quiet. But one day I've had enough.
Okay,
Isn't
so
that traumatic,
to the
though?
point,
Not
to the
even
point, not saying nothing is a trauma response.
Right.
No,
but not
Oh
even
wait. Let's get some clarity though, so I understand.
That's
So
what
you're
you're saying.
saying so Chief, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you've been traumatized so much and you explode. It's a trauma response by nature of the trauma you've been experiencing.
right, because her first initial reaction was not to say anything. So then when
But
time three
then-
happens, and I don't know, I've moved her jeans out of her spot, and now she spazzes on me like, I didn't know that bothered you. But so at the fifth time when it bothers you, why not just talk to me and tell me about it? But instead you spaz like I'm supposed to be aware that I was pissing you off 5 other times.
because a lot of times what
I
happens,
see what you're saying.
and I see what you're saying, but a lot of times also you got to keep in mind what happens is I'm not saying that you just 7 times not saying nothing. I'm saying maybe I'm not communicating it in a way that you want to receive it. A lot of times when a woman specifically does speak in a softer tone or is pretty chill about what she say, even when it comes to her kids, if they're calm and they're just, just bringing something up like, hey, I didn't like such and such. People don't take that in. People do not take that in the same way as being aggressive sometimes. So maybe I did tell you all 7 of those times what I didn't, I don't like when you do that, or don't do that to me, or something like that. You just decided not to take it in. I'm not saying that every time somebody's not saying nothing. It's just I'm addressing it, but not in a way that you want to receive it. So you're taking it as me not saying nothing.
And then you're saying the explosion is misconstrued because you've been trying to communicate it effectively and calmly, and then when you explode, you get demonized.
Right. And I feel like just overall, like my point is the fact that a lot of people don't take accountability for why somebody is reacting. It's not always just trauma. It's what did you do to me right now?
Well, that's the thing. That's what's interesting, and I want to get SGL in because I get accused, right? And some of it might be factual, gaslighting, pushing people, da da da. You know what I mean? So we want to say that all the time up here, but Mary's talking about exactly that. People push people, but it's still on the person that was pushed.
Right.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Because the only person you can control is you. That's the only thing.
Well, let me get Glenn real quick.
I would always say,
and then Devin, I got you. Then Q.
Okay.
I typically was taught you don't typically push people unless you think you can whoop their ass, right? That's typically why men typically conduct ourselves in a reasonable manner amongst each other. I typically don't see that issue amongst men getting too far with the explosive tone. Like when it comes to men, a lot of times it is expressly known that it's about to get to that point, right? Like, and if you want to talk about, I've been around, men who gave other men fair warning, right? I'm gonna put you on the spot, but like, but even in that case, if another man gives you a fair warning, then at that point, there's a potential for violence, and if, in that case, yes, of course, both parties have to take accountability for those situations. But if it's unreasonable, if it's just flying out the handle, just for no reason regularly, then that puts it in a different sort of space. But I figure most time, at least among men, I think that's typically a fair warning or an understanding that there's a potential threat of violence.
Word. Yeah. Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah. I think my temper is something that's been like my Achilles heel my whole entire life. It's cost me relationships. It's cost me jobs, business opportunities, everything, because I'm the type of person, like, you might rub me wrong on Monday. By the time you got to Saturday, like she said, you on the last straw and don't know. But it'd be the smallest thing that you do that makes me go boom, because I tried to brush off all the big stuff and try to let you slide. And then when I can't let you slide anymore, I go boom. But the thing is, oh, snap.
Go ahead, Q.
Nah, my bad. Like, homie was about to roll off the couch. When you respond a certain way, it's still you're allowing somebody to control you. So what the thing is, I've learned that like my anger it's only cost me things. So it's like, how long do I let it slide to where like my every response to somebody expressing themselves is an explosion. Now, you have a right to be angry. I mean, that's a God-given emotion to you. You have a right to feel that because you have feelings for a reason. But it's how you go about them. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like, there's still accountability on the person who can be egging you on and poking you on. A lot of times people don't want to see that part. They only want to see it when you go boom, but they kind of just breeze past the fact that like, yo, you disrespected him on this day, you was talking greasy this day, you pushed him this day, you brushed by it this day, and then like that little thing that you did because you kept thinking that you could keep pushing them, and then when they went boom, now all of a sudden you play victim. Like, no, you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. You poke the
Yeah.
bear,
Made me think
you
about
get your
Will
head knocked
Smith.
off. That, you know what I'm saying? But at the
Mm.
same time, yeah, Will Smith, like that situation alone was an explosion because he was pushed. Like,
Yeah.
and Chris just happened to be the person that came out on because he never took the rage out with Jada for doing what she was doing. Like come on,
Yeah.
like you getting interviewed by the chick that cheated on you on national
Well,
television. You got to be cool with that. You a joke everywhere. That'll push
well,
any nigga to go crazy. But like,
I think that speaks to Chief's point, right? Like you've been harboring something, and then you want to put
holding
all the
grudge.
pain on the person when I think you're still accountable to Chief's point.